Hi, welcome to day 9 of the 21-day Walk to Wealth coaching call series. And again, this is obviously on video. So today is all about vision. Now, you might think, what? How does vision have anything to do with this? And how do I have that as a mantra? Well, here's how it does, is that when we are surrounded with problems, when our life is not running exactly the way we want it to run, that is a lack of vision. So we're not, and oftentimes we're not able to see the solutions. And honestly, if you're very focused on the problem, you can't see the solution. That's part of the reason why we played the fire ritual earlier. And we're going to play another game today that helps us with our vision as well. It's called the Billionaire game. So I'm going to talk about vision first thing this morning. And if you have time first thing this morning, then set aside about an hour to play the Billionaire game this morning. If you don't, then play it tonight. But think about these concepts that I'm going to talk about with vision all day and then play the Billionaire game tonight. But you do have some tools to think the solutions rather than the problems. So, again, when you have a problem and you're focused on that, like sometimes the solution can be right in front of you and you're not going to see it. So, as the example of what I told you about yesterday with the parking spot, if I was just looking behind me and not in front of me, if I was only looking behind me and stewing in my anger, which can happen with anger, I would have never seen the empty parking spot just ahead of me because I would have felt self-righteous. I was already parking in here. This is my spot. But, who wins in that? We would get out, we'd both argue. At the end of the day, how is that resolved, right? Whoever screams the loudest. So it's not necessarily a great way to go through life. So again, I would not have seen that if I hadn't somehow magically looked up and looked ahead, looked around the car. And that's the way it is with a lot of things. Again, if you're stewing in the problem, you're not seeing a solution. Sometimes you can be so wrapped up in your own head that you don't see opportunities. They always say that success is when preparedness meets opportunity. So you need both, right? You need to already embody whatever it is that's going to make you successful. And then you need to see and seize the opportunity. So that's what vision is all about today is, again, if you as you go through the day, once you play the Billionaire game, you're going to, again, have more tools. But if you're waiting and playing that towards the end, then today, as you go through your day, when you encounter something that is a challenge to you, or if you're stuck in auto repeat on something that's bugging you, remember that this is a lack of vision. And either you're going to have to get through it with the fire ritual or the Billionaire game, or you're going to have to just say, okay, I have a lack of vision here. How can I get help? I've had that myself. I'll share with you something real intimate. When my son was 16, his best friend was killed in a car accident. And it was unimaginable for his, the parents of this child, and for my son. And it was a loss to me, a severe loss to me, but it was such a severe blow to my son and to the parents of this beautiful, overachieving teen who had great prospects ahead of him, that I needed to be in service. I could still acknowledge my own grieving, but I really needed to be in service, right? And my son and his friends who had lost this teen, this friend of theirs, were acting out. They were using drugs. They were acting, they were numbing it. They were trying to numb the pain. And I did not know how to help them out of that. And I had a spiritual guru in my life. His name was Michael Bernard Beckwith. And I called him up and I said, I have no idea what to do. And he said, well, here's a couple of things on the spiritual path. You may need to do other things on the action path, but on the spiritual path, here are a couple of things. The first thing is, imagine him as you wish he was. So that's the vision that you need to hold, not the problems, but the solutions. That's the vision you have to hold. And then the second thing is, in your meditations on that vision, ask yourself this one simple question: what within me needs to grow so that this is no longer a problem? It's incredible and it's humble, but it's also powerful. What within me needs to grow so this is no longer a problem? All of the spiritual gurus tell you that if you have a problem, you have to learn how to be bigger than the problem. Successful parents will tell you that you have to learn how to anticipate what your child is going through so that you can guide them rather than reacting, which is usually going to be a much inferior choice. All right. If you need to leave, fine, push pause here and come back tonight and play the Billionaire game. If you're ready to play the Billionaire game, let's get started. So I have a form that I'm going to put up on the screen, but you can use a blank piece of paper, and you're just going to need 4 columns and 6 rows. Okay, you'll see the form in just a moment. I'm going to share the screen and show you a few things. So the first thing I want to share with you is this chart. So I want you to ask yourself, how would you live if you had all of the money in the world? Now, this is Highgrove Estate. This is where Prince William and Prince Harry grew up. It's an organic farm based on sustainability principles. Prince Charles, His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, has built 2 sustainable communities. And it's just something that's been part of his whole ethos since 1970s. Now, this is not as posh as you might have imagined, right? It's not a castle. It certainly is a beautiful country house, and it's big, but it's what they wanted to do. It's what, he wanted to create for himself and his children. So how would you live if you had all the money in the world? We'll go through a meditation process on this in when we deal with another one of our mantras, but I do want you to think about it today. And I have one more. This is the form itself. So this is what the form looks like. Again, make 5 rows and 5 columns and about 6 rows. So I'm going to give you your current salary. I'm going to say you make $10,000 a month. That makes you a thousandaire. You're going to put, again, we're going on the idea of the Thrive budget, which is 50% to survive and 50% to thrive. So whatever your monthly budget, your monthly salary is, you're going to start off with the Thrive portion. So 10% of 10,000 is 1,000. So in that first column, that first row, you write in small, $1,000. 10% of $10,000 for charity, $1,000. 10% of 10,000, 1,000 for education. $1,000 for fun that you're going to have this month. $1,000 per month that you'll save up for 12 months for a big ticket fund. So there, 1,000 times 12 is $12,000. So this is an annual one. And then 10,000 a month, if you're spending half of it on basic needs, that means that your basic needs have to be limited to $5,000. That would include debt, house, car, taxes, food, clothes, etc. Anything, health insurance, car insurance, all of those sorts of things. Life insurance if you have it. Okay, so before we start spending, let's talk about it for a moment. So this is a game that's designed to give you greater vision, to push you against your walls about money or whatever it is, and break through them. We're going to ask and answer, how would you live if you had all the money in the world? That's what the Billionaire game is designed. I'm going to give you all the money in the world. How are you going to live? And each answer is short and whimsical, but detailed. And the reason for that is that we want to try to grasp your heart's passion rather than your rationale about things. Okay? So let's say, look, it's not going to be hard on this first one because you're just a thousandaire. If you're making 10,000 a month, that's 120,000 a year. That's pretty average salary. So again, in each category, I'll go back through and give you your spending limit. It's not that much money, but the universe loves details. So if you were going to, take a vacation once the pandemic is ended, you can't just go to the airport and say, I want to go on vacation. You might feel like that's all you want to do. They're going to say, well, okay, well, where do you want to go? Where do you want to buy the ticket to? Or hopefully you've already purchased it. Otherwise the ticket's going to be expensive because, as you know, you got to purchase it at least 2 weeks in advance. Otherwise you pay a boatload more. So you have to be specific. If you want anything, you have to be specific about it. So don't just say, I'll invest $1,000 in my nest egg or in my IRA. What specifically do you want to own? What are you going to invest in? Same thing for charity. Please don't just donate it to your church. What is the one thing that you think your $1,000 would help in the world today? Education. $1,000. What is it that you could educate yourself in that's going to help you today? Okay, fun, you're not going to have a hard time with. Saving up for fun, you're probably not going to have a hard time with. When we get to basic needs, again, you're going to have $5,000 that you can spend on that. Write the number in there. That's it. You spend a lot of time writing bills. You spend your whole life writing bills. How many times do you play the billionaire game in your life? So for the next hour, let's be focusing on thriving and focusing on vision. You can fix whatever you need to fix in the basic needs department after tomorrow. And that's not a mañana thing. It's, you can fix it tomorrow. Today, the focus and the exercise and the game, and it is a game, so don't take it too seriously, is to give you greater vision and also guidelines and guidance. Okay. All right. So spend your money. And you only have 4 minutes to do so. So that means you got to move quickly and do not focus on basic needs at all. All right. So again, you have $1,000 you can invest, $1,000 you can give to charity, $1,000 that you can education, whatever education means to you. If you're already well educated, it could be towards your student loan debt, $1,000 for this month's fun, and then save up for 12 months. So you have $12,000 in long-term fund. Basic needs is $5,000, but you're ignoring that. And I'll stop talking now. And again, it's a really good idea just to push pause and set your own alarm for 4 minutes. You don't want it to be a long period of time. You really want to think whimsical and whatever comes first, and just write it down. All right, I'll see you in 5. Okay, welcome back. Now, this one is usually pretty easy. The one thing that people tend to get a little wrong is investing. So if I had $1,000 for investing, there's many things that you could do with that, right? You could think about buying a fund, like buying one of my slices. You could think about saving up for a down payment for a house. So all of these answers could be right. I think what would be not a good idea is to invest in like 10 different individual companies. Um, in your nest egg, typically we want to invest in funds. And the reason for that is that if you have 100 companies in one fund and one of the companies does terrible, like maybe Boeing, where 2 plane crashes, then the stock might drop and you would freak out if you were just investing in Boeing. But if Boeing is one of 100 companies in a fund, then maybe you have Google or Apple or one of these other companies that's going to do well and keep it buoyant. Tesla, Fang, Facebook, and Netflix, Nvidia, etc. So, and in terms of charity, one of the questions that I get oftentimes is, you know what, I have a niece or a nephew who could really use some money for college. Should I donate to her? And I always say, yeah, because charity is what you define it as. It does not have to be tax deductible to be a charity. So if you're willing to be charitable to a family member, that's okay. In fact, one of the most fun Christmases that I've ever had was our family decided that we would gift Disneyland to one of our family members. They had lived in California and they had 5 kids, and none of the kids had ever been to Disneyland. They had very modest income. They were going to be moving to Utah. So we decided that it would be fun to let the kids all go to Disneyland and before they moved. And we went with them and we had a blast, and it was really a lot of fun. So yeah, not tax deductible, but one of the best charity things that our family did. Okay, so let's dive in, and I'm going to give you a raise, and you're now going to be a millionaire. Here's what that looks like. Okay, so if you're making $100,000 a month and you times that by 12, that means that you are now worth $1.2 million a year. You're earning 1.2 million. So again, let's just do the math real quickly. So if you have $100,000 a month, 10% is $10,000 in your investing, $10,000 charity, $10,000 education, $10,000 for fun this month, $10,000 times 12, right? So that's going to be $120,000 for something you save up for all year to have fun with. And then again, your monthly salary is $100,000. So you can spend $50,000 on basic needs, and that does include taxes. Remember, write in that number and then ignore it. Now, okay, we're not going to start spending yet, because before we start spending, let's put ourselves in the mindset of a millionaire. I like to think of Jennifer Hudson. So, she came from very, low income. And then she goes on, she's extremely talented, and she goes on American Idol and she doesn't win. But everyone can see her talent. And then she lands a movie role and she wins an Academy Award. And then she gets the Weight Watchers consignment, and she probably makes about $1 million a year as a spokesperson. And of course, when she makes movies, she gets to make some money as well. But you have to imagine that Jennifer Hudson, in order to be the Weight Watchers spokesperson and be this fantastic singer, she takes vocal lessons. She may have a personal trainer. She may even have a chef. If she has children, she probably has to have a nanny. So again, you can't really make $1 million all by yourself. She definitely has an agent and maybe even a manager. Now, of course, a lot of that money comes out of her LLC, right? It's not like she's going to pay for her manager or her agent out of her own salary. It comes out before she gets the money. Or if she has a production company, then that's part of the production company expenses. But it's important to have this larger vision, to remind yourself that it's not just all about you, and that you can't make $1 million all by yourself. You have to have help to do that. So again, this is where partnerships come into play. All right, now let's go back and make sure you've got the math, and remember to spend with details. Now, you might ask yourself, why do I call it Buy My Own Island Investing Portfolio? Well, every single retirement account that you have could have a goal attached to it. So as an example, if you have a health savings account so that you can stop making the health insurance company rich and you can save tens of thousands of dollars a year, chances are, and you can fund your own health savings account and take a tax credit, your goal on that one might be my best long-term healthcare plan in retirement. Or this will be the foundation of my wealth, because that is part of your wealth. That's part of your assets, right? It's money that's in there in case you need it for medical expenses, but you could build it up and it becomes part of your retirement plan. Since the healthcare is the biggest expense in retirement, not a bad idea to have your own, little cash cow in there in your health savings account. If you had a college fund for your kids, it could be send my son to the Cambridge Sustainable School of Agriculture. You could look, and the goal can change, right? Obviously, you're going to want to go send your kid where they want to go. But initially, again, the universe likes details. So you could have some details in there that change with life, with real life. My Buy My Own Investing Portfolio. Again, the reason that I use these names is that it reminds us that these are goals. Because if it's just your retirement account, then you may not look at it. And don't heed the advice of anybody who tells you not to look at your statements. That is a buy and hold salesman all day long, and it's perilous to your physical health. So remember, each one of these accounts, whether it's your 401k, your IRA, your health savings account, your 501(c)(3) whatever it is, have each one of them have a goal attached to it. Now, again, 5 minutes, because the goal here is that it's whimsical. It's inviting in intuition. It's inviting in spirit, soul, passion stuff. And if you are having trouble accessing that, then try to pretend you're a 5-year-old and give yourself a crayon and scribble outside the lines a little bit. It's a game. 5 minutes. See you then. Just push pause, okay? And one other thing, it doesn't hurt to play nice music while you're visioning. Probably not music with words in it. Music that is just instrumental, that inspires you, and at a low enough volume that it's not interfering or making you think about the music. All right. Okay. So let's see. And ideally, we do play this game in my retreats. When we can do them in person, we typically will do them in cool places like on the beach, or we've done it on the beach in Florida. We've done it on the beach in California. We've done it a lot of different very cool places. Online, we play it and we share. And that's very, very helpful. So we're going to have to just share some of the things that other people have shared. I can share, and it's a way of course correcting. So a lot of the times at this level, when we get into the investing part, people will say, I'm investing in my nest egg and I've got it all filled up and I own my own home. So now what I want to do is invest in something that I'm passionate about. Like maybe I'm passionate about clean energy. So I want to push forward the technology that will pull carbon out of the air, or I want to push forward the technology on pulling plastic out of the oceans. Now, the interesting thing here is developing a new business is not money while you sleep. In your investing portfolio, it's supposed to be passive income. It's supposed to be money while you sleep. What do I mean by that? You don't work at it, and there's a high likelihood that it will make a 10% return on the investment, and a low likelihood that it's going to go and fail. Now, when you're starting up a new company, you have to be cognizant that 50% or more of new companies don't make it. So that in and of itself means that it is not appropriate in your it's not appropriate in your investing portfolio. That doesn't mean that it's not appropriate to do. What I want you to do in these categories is align expectations with what's likely to happen. So if it's likely that new businesses fail at a very high rate, it's not a good idea to stick it into your investing portfolio where you're planning on earning a 10% aggregate gain annualized. It would be okay to say, this is my charity. This is something, and hey, if it becomes the next great big thing and it becomes my income, then it's my business. And 10% of the profits or 10% of my income will go into my buy my own island fund, into my passive income. So you can see again, it's not in that buy my own island passive income strategy. So if you're interested in something like that, that's R&D, like if you had a corporation, it would be the R&D budget. Then assign either charity or education. It certainly can be an education. Same thing if somebody comes to you and they say, I've got this great idea for a new business, a technology business, an app business, whatever it's going to be. They may say, I want you to be an investor. I want you to be an owner. And you in your own brain can say, okay, great, but allocate it out of your education fund or your charity fund. You can still sign all the paperwork as an investor, but don't in your brain expect that it's going to earn you that 10% annualized with a very low probability of failure, because that's just not what this beast is, right? It has a high probability of failure. And that means that your investment could become worthless. So even though you've gone ahead and accepted, even if you accept K1s, even if you become an investor, in your mind, if you've allocated it to educate you or as charity because you believe in this person and you know that the process of them going through this business is going to be helpful to them, then at the end of the day, if what is likely to happen happens, which it goes bankrupt, then you don't have to have the ill will that will accompany it. If you were an investor and were expecting a 10% ROI and that they shouldn't have failed, that's a whole different thing than to say, okay, so what now? And also that whole process is going to show you whether or not that person is a good partner for you, because what is their work ethic? How did they handle the failure? Did they give it all they had to make it succeed? Okay, let's see if there's anything else on here that we can think of. Again, a millionaire, you're spending what, 10,000 on charity. You can probably handle that. 10,000 on education. I know a lot of people are having, some people, not everybody, have trouble with this. I'll give you a fun one. There was one woman and she said, I'd really like to have Warren Buffett educate me on investing. And of course, she'd put it here in the millionaire category. I was like, I think that an hour of his time is worth more than $10,000. So it might be something you have to save up for all year, or you might have to wait to your multimillionaire level in 5 minutes. But I said, why don't you buy Berkshire Hathaway stock and then attend the annual meetings, because he speaks at them and he tells you exactly what he's doing and why. And that will be educational. So she did that. She actually did it. And within 2 years, and she went to the meeting, she went out to Omaha to the meetings. Within 2 years, she sent me a picture of herself with Bill Gates playing bridge. So these things really work. I mean, it's amazing how your dreams can come true. All right. Let's go ahead and give you a raise so that you become a multi-millionaire. Okay. So if you're a multi-millionaire, you could be making $1 million a month, and 12 times 1 million is $12 million a year. So what is 10% of 1 million? You just drop a zero. It's $100,000 that you're investing this month. $100,000 for charity, $100,000 for education, $100,000 for fun this month, and 100,000 times 12, which is $1.2 million. And again, if you are earning $1 million a month, only 50% can go towards basic needs. So you have to limit your basic needs expenses to $500,000. Write down the number, but let's not stay there. Now, the interesting thing here is that earned income is taxed at the highest tax rate. So a lot of you might think, oh, well, Bill Gates must pay half of his money in taxes. Not true. In fact, very famously, Warren Buffett noted that his executive assistant paid a higher tax rate than he does. Passive income is taxed at a much lower rate. So if your money is in a tax-protected retirement account, you don't pay any capital gains on it. Once you retire and start taking the distributions, you will pay income tax unless it's in a Roth IRA, and then you won't even pay on that. So again, you can adopt the rules of the wealthy so that you can pay lower taxes too. So they might be paying 10, maybe 20%, whereas you might be paying 35% as an income earner that's not making anywhere close to $1 million a month. So this billionaire game is also helping me to be able to teach you some of the rules of the wealthy. All right, I would like for you to spend your money. I know that some of these categories might be challenging, but think outside the box, and also think like a child and think whimsically. And don't judge, and don't say you can't do it. If you're having difficulty doing it, then again, just say, well, what if I did? What kind of education for $100,000 would be valuable to me? What kind of long-term fun for 1.2 million would be valuable to me? Now, before I send you off, let's think like a multimillionaire, because again, at this level, you probably have a lot of employees working for you. So a friend of ours, because he was actually my son's, it wasn't the soccer coach, he was the soccer team captain. And he was also the owner of Snack King. So those little nut packages that you see at convenience stores. And it was funny because the first time we went on a field trip out of town for the kids to play soccer, he brought in all these giant boxes of snacks. And I was like, wow, this must have cost so much money. He's like, I own the company. But some of his strategies, so his wife was the chief marketing officer. There was, it was kind of a family business, but it was bigger. Instead of hiring and developing their own distribution, obviously they just found a good distributor that could put them in all of the convenience stores. But he always thought he needed to be to the office first and leave last. So he wanted to set the example. At the same time, he wanted to be involved in his kids' lives. So he was the soccer dad. In order to do all of these things, he has to have help. And, he wanted to make sure his kids were well educated. So there was private school for the kids. There was a housekeeper for the home. There definitely were after school programs. Because they had 4 kids, they did have to have actually people that could drive the kids to soccer practice in various places. So again, remember that whether it's the product or the widget that you make or the support that you get at home, if you're going to earn multi-millions in a year, it's not something that you can do all by yourself. All right. So have that larger vision of your support team, that your partnership, even if you're the leader of the partnership, which if you're multimillionaire, chances are you are, you still have to be inspiring others around you. You have to care about the well-being of others so they show up and want to do a good job. All right, I'll leave you with that, and I'll be back shortly, and we'll talk more about some of the ways to solve any kind of the struggles or barriers or walls that you find yourself running up against. All right, so I'm going to share the screen as we talk about some of these categories. Okay, so back to your investing portfolio. So $100,000 this month. You know, we talk about this in the ABCs of Money, the stocks section, as well as the what's safe section. So you want to think about various assets that you can own that will produce passive income for you. Obviously, you don't want to have everything be in paper money, because hard assets can actually hold their value well and they can produce income for you. In a post-pandemic world, you're going to have to think about this carefully of how you're going to do that. But safe income producing hard assets that you purchase for a good price would be, and considering income for a post-pandemic world, would be a good diversification model. So you definitely want to have a diversified portfolio, and you don't want to just be all property rich and cash poor, and you don't want to have just a whole lot of cash, because if the dollar weakens, or if you're and honestly, bonds are illiquid and negative yielding. So the traditional ways that you could get safe in paper assets are vulnerable. It's important that you understand what that means, because even money market funds have redemption gates and liquidity fees. If you want to know more about what that means, I outline that in the What's Safe section of the ABCs of Money. We talk about what's safe for one full day at the Investor Educational Retreat. And obviously, it's a very big deal when I'm giving you a second opinion. So you do need to educate yourself a little bit more on that. Let's go into some of the other categories. All right. Charity. Are you having trouble with $100,000 for charity? My guess is no, because I think that people can think about charities and be very generous about it. A lot of times the things that really will trip people up is education. Of course, you could say, okay, I'll just buy an hour of Warren Buffett's time, and that's an easy solution. But one of the things that I was trying to get at is that, look, if the Snack King owner has 4 kids, his education fund is probably their college funds. So you want to be thinking about other people in your family as well. It's not just about you taking as many dance classes and French courses as you can. Yes, financial literacy, educate yourself in financial literacy, make it a priority, because that is going to help you to earn passive income. Education is the highest correlating factor with income, and financial education in passive income. So just having blind faith that somebody else is doing it for you is a very expensive lesson. Knowing what you own and what a healthy nest egg looks like, that means that you can be the boss of your money. And again, we now have time-proven strategies that earned gains in the last 2 recessions and have outperformed the bull markets in between. So you may as well use them. Okay, let's go back and see what else we've got here. All right. I don't think, well, some people have a tough time with short-term fun or long-term fun, but others just say 1.2 million. Wow, that's cool. Maybe I can buy that vacation house somewhere and our family can go there, on holidays. That would be an easy, fun thing to do. So up to you. how you want to spend the fun. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when it gets even more challenging on the billionaire level. So let's jump there. Let's give you a raise. Okay. So billionaires, let's say you make $100 million a month. If you times that by 12, that is $1.2 billion a year. So you would be a billionaire. Let's put in the math first. So again, the reason that we deal with tens in a lot of the things in my strategies is because it's easy. So 10% of 100 million is 10 million to invest. 10 million for charity, 10 million for education, 10 million for short-term fun. Long-term fun is going to be 10 million times 12, which is $120 million. And again, if we're making $100 million a month, we can only spend half of that on our basic needs. 50 million. Do you think that Bill Gates needs $50 million a month to cover basic needs? If he paid, 30, 40, 50% in taxes, then he would. But he doesn't, because most of his money is in Microsoft. And so it's long-term capital gains, and it's in the company itself. So that's what you want to start doing, is start having more passive income. He's no longer even the chairman of Microsoft. He resigned that, I think it was February of 2020. There were a boatload of C-level exodus out of their companies. Bob Iger, the chairman and CEO of Disney, became just the executive chairman, and he resigned as CEO so they could keep his good track record at Disney. Okay, so back to billionaire status. Think like a billionaire. Couple of things here. Let's talk about Bill Gates. So he is now employing maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. I think of it like they're the sun of the city. If they do not employ people, if they don't rise and shine, the whole city suffers. We saw that with Detroit when Chrysler declared bankruptcy and Ford was in trouble, and General Motors declared bankruptcy during the Great Recession. Detroit really had problems, and eventually the city declared bankruptcy. So the first thing is that at that level, it is a responsibility, because you have to keep relevant. You have to keep innovating and creating product and making that product be something that people want to buy and having it the price that they can pay. All of these things are important. And especially in technology, you're going to have to be able to hire people that have the skill set that you need. In fact, we don't have enough technology workers in the United States. That's where most of our foreign labor is coming in. It's actually at the higher skill set level. So Bill Gates, that investing in higher education is a good idea. At that level, then they might be thinking about a college at the local university, having supporting technology teaching at their local university. So A, you're the son of the village. B, you have to have people that are educated well enough to come and be your employees and be part of the team. The last part of this is this: you cannot buy a big enough Hummer or build walls big enough to drive through ghettos to your palatial estate. If you do, like Gaddafi in Libya, it has a terrible end. You might have lived the rich life for a while, but it's kind of debauched, and I don't know if there's real happiness there. It's more like pleasure seeking. But it doesn't end well for people like that. So you want to think also about the happiness factor, because happy people will make better products faster and cheaper. So your city, you might want to have parks there, and that might be part of your fun money. Oprah very famously would, take people for fun vacations and even take some of her audience members. Now, maybe that was part of her business model, but it also might have been real fun for her. All right, so spend like a billionaire and be specific. And when you meet an area that's challenging for you, remember that the whole goal of this whole game is to push you against your money walls so that you break free of them, because we want to create vision, today's mantra. Is remember that it's only 5 minutes. And again, that's so that you access your passion, and just push pause and put on your music and put on your alarm, and I'll see you in 5. Okay, welcome back. Share the screen. Let's go into it. So how did you solve these problems? How did you invest 10 million a month? What would you be investing in? I think by now you have some general guidelines, right? You want to make sure that you're diversified. If you're in your nest egg, that you're keeping a percent equal to your age safe. We're overweighting safe because we're in a pandemic and a recession. And then you diversify the remaining pie chart by 10 slices, 4 hots, small, medium, large, value, and growth. But you also want to think about income producing hard assets that you purchase for a good price. In America, real estate is at an all-time high right now, so you're not able to purchase it for a good price unless you shop in the shadow inventory. That's something that we talk about a little bit at the retreat on day 3, which is our What's Safe day. But I also have a real estate masterclass that is coming up the week after the retreat. So the retreat itself is January 16th through the 18th of 2021. And then the real estate masterclass is going to be on the following Saturday, so January 23rd. So if that interests you, that you're interested, whether you're interested in buying your own house, buying intergenerational housing, thinking of what's going to produce income in a post-pandemic world, or how to shop in the shadow inventory, how to know if you're getting a good deal, all of these things, then do register for the real estate masterclass. All right, let's look at this and see if there's other lessons that we can garner from our billionaire game. So again, charity, you can think about, it's funny because at this level, charity becomes tax preservation. So, Getty very famously created this foundation so that he would pay much lower taxes. But now we have the Getty Center and the Getty Villa and all of this beautiful artwork as well. So a lot of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, in one hand, it's a way of them doing good in the world. On the other hand, it's a way for them to pay less taxes and direct exactly what their money goes for. Warren Buffett has a foundation for each child that he's able to donate to. When you're at that level, you actually are able to donate under the gift tax level to every single person every single year. That adds up, believe it or not. In fact, that's an easy way to transfer wealth without paying any taxes at all. So again, these are things that benefit humanity, but they also benefit the individual. Education, again, this could be college funds for your kids, but when you've got that much money, so you got $10 million this month, then endowing, at a college that specializes in the skill sets that you need at your company at the local university is going to be a very good idea. Short-term fun, again, whether it's the Getty Center art or parks that are endowed in California, Kirk and Ann Douglas, they built playgrounds in underserved public schools, and they put their name on it. And, they upgraded, like some of the schools had really bad playgrounds if they had anything at all. And some of them even had like play structures from the 60s, those iron things, right? That they were upgrading. So again, in your foundation, it's a tax preservation strategy, pay less in taxes, but it also allows you to decide what is deserving of your money rather than just paying it in taxes and letting the government do what they want. A big part of that now is going to be paying interest on all the money that we have created and borrowed. Another part of that is going to, defense and Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want a specific thing you believe your money could help better, then why not create a foundation and do that? So another thing that you might start understanding is that these areas can start bleeding together. Short-term fun, long-term fun, education, charity, you might even investing. You might start thinking, well, it would be really fun to set up sustainable communities where I own the land and I maybe build buildings that I can lease out to sustainable businesses. Prince Charles did that at Poundbury and at Nansladen. So there are all kinds of examples of people that are doing great good in the world and using a business model to do it. And there are a lot of people that are very wealthy who act as stewards of their wealth, and it's a responsibility for them. All right, I hope this game has helped you with your vision. We have one last thing to do, and that is our commitments. So everything that you want on the billionaire level, you actually can start walking to now. So I use the example of the person who wanted to learn from Warren Buffett, who bought Berkshire Hathaway stock and attended the meetings, right? So that was something that was worth $100,000 or more. Maybe it might be $1 million to have lunch with him for that charity he does. But instead, and she couldn't afford it, but instead of thinking in that mindset and shutting it off, she had the vision to think, wow, well, okay, I can learn something at these meetings, right? So what I want you to do is look at what you really would love to do if money were not an object. Like look at that billionaire, multimillionaire, and billionaire column. Look at those things that your heart is calling you to. And let's create a pathway to get there. So let's make a commitment. I want you to make a commitment in terms of money, in terms of education, charity, and fun. Again, we're going to have to fix the basic needs so that you can start thriving, but we'll do that tomorrow. Today, we're still thriving and we're having vision and focusing on vision. So what are you going to do today that will get you to your passive income, money while you sleep strategy? What can you start this week that will create or contribute to a charity? What about education? Are you going to educate yourself more, or are you going to try to figure out how you pay off college loan debt in a more sustainable way? And then fun. Fun is hugely important to vision and to our fiscal health and our physical health. There's many reasons. I outline it in the ABCs of Money if you want to look at it, but it's really important. So make a commitment to yourself. Now, let's say for fun, you decide, okay, I've always wanted to go to Iceland. You can't, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but you could start saving towards that, and you could have that as a goal. And that could be the first thing you do as soon as we have a vaccine and are able to do it. It's not inconceivable that could be within the next 12 months. So your commitment right now is Iceland, and save up for it and look on, websites like Travelzoo or Priceline or wherever to see if you can find package deals that you like and how much it's going to cost and who might go with you. You can start planning it now. So make those commitments for money, charity, education, and fun. And write them down. And push pause while you do that. All right, we have one last thing that you have to do with your commitments. You got to say them out loud to somebody. The reason that weddings are so powerful is because in front of friends and family, you make vows out loud. So saying you're going to do something out loud in front of friends and family carries a lot more weight because you feel like you have to be accountable for it. So say it out loud to someone who cares about you. All right, thank you. Remember, vision is important. You have to be able to see someplace that you want to go, and the action plan is important as well. Remember, my dreams inspire my direction, but my footsteps and my actions take me there. So be inspired, have vision, and let's get started.